What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome back to Tactical Tuesday. It's Tuesday. We're getting tactical today, and it's been a pretty wild week, everybody. Speaking personally, and I'm gonna start this episode off with a shameless plug because that's how we roll. I did a bunch of streaming over the weekend. If you haven't checked that out, you can go check that out on the channel. We streamed Webway Games GT. It was actually friggin' super sick. We had some of the best games I think we've streamed on the live stream in a really long time, at least on there. There were a lot of people who were like surprised that I was doing in-person live streaming. I was like, that's a little bit funky because we've been my first in-person live stream was like 11 months ago, so we've been doing it for almost a year. But just started to do it on the regular YouTube channel. This looks like it's a little bit loud. I'm gonna turn down my microphone a little bit here, chat, because I think it's keyed towards my other microphone. Hopefully that's not too spiky for you. Looks like Kasazi in chat. What's up, dude? Thanks everybody for joining. Nurgle Matt's in there. How's it going? Got some talk about Kraken, High Fleet Kraken. Yeah, we can talk about High Fleet Kraken a little bit later. I'm actually kind of excited about them. But yeah, it's been pretty crazy. So highly recommend you go check out those games, especially I think the last 3 rounds. I think we had a bunch of games on with Ynnari, or I guess no. Round 2 was really good. Was super duper good, like insanely good. That was Necrons versus a Drukhari plus Harlequin build. That was really interesting. We had that build on again in the semifinals and final round. Is that right? I think that's right. And ended up being really good. The finals game was, or in the semifinals game, excuse me, we had that versus a Ynnari build, and then we had Ynnari versus Necrons in the final round. So tons of Eldar over the course of the whole weekend. It was super duper sick. So yeah, had a really great weekend doing some live streaming. So thanks everyone for who came and hung out over the course of the weekend over there. That was super cool. But the other thing that we did that at least happened over the weekend is why I have this random website up. But for those who don't know, actually back in 2019, I published a miniatures game. There's probably a video from when it was announced on the channel from there, although I wasn't posting content at that point, but called Breachstorm, and we ran a Kickstarter. It was a little bit of a rocky road. We ended up basically moving to a different model from Kickstarter. We ran a second Kickstarter. It went okay, but it was sort of up and down. But we really stood by the game and really believed in it. And a while ago, one of the other team members from the game contacted me and said, hey, we want to get the project back going. And that was announced formally on Sunday. So if you want to check that game out, chat, it's breachstorm.com. There's a link down in the video description. I'm not going to harp on it too much today. I'll probably do a video on it in the not too distant future. But it's a small scale sci-fi game. About 6 to 8 miniatures per side. It's very much like sort of the scale of Kill Team. It plays on a 3x3 board, and some of the cool things about it are that it uses a player plays terrain system, so that's like baked into the game. Unlike 40K, where they just sort of add it over top, and they're like, I hope it works out, and then assign a bunch of additional rules to the terrain to make sure it doesn't get gamed too much. That's the core design of the game, and also the mission structure is really unique because the missions that you play are actually baked into your army list construction, and each player has a different set of objectives that they'll score on. So the sort of synergy between there's an attacking player and a defending player. The defending player is usually trying to hold points on the table, or keep their opponent away from their side of the table, things like that. And the attacking player is trying to retrieve objectives or hack terminals and stuff like that. And so that sort of creates the overarching narrative of the game, and it's pretty cool. So anyway, I'm just we just announced that it's going to be sort of back in active development. There's a new rules update that's going to be coming out probably Thursday. And I highly recommend you go check it out. There's a link on the webpage at the top up here, if you can see it. There are some community links. We have a Facebook group and a Discord server that are relatively active right now. So yeah, come check it out. All the models are actually going to be available for 3D printing and for print on demand. Right now you can order them in a resin. but there are also like paper doll standees available as well. The models themselves actually don't matter for the game because it doesn't use true line of sight because it's a real game that was designed by actual humans. So you can kind of use whatever you want if you just want to proxy it, and literally everything is available. If you want to just play it right off the website, you can do that essentially. All the rules and the models and the profiles are there. There's no paywall. So anyway, I've that's eaten a lot of my time over the last week or so. So I haven't been doing too much 40K wise, but we do get to talk about some lists today, so that'll be exciting. Manuel Valera, you tried to fast forward this part. Cool, man. That's a cool thing for you to say to me right there. That was that's super nice to hear. Thank you, and you know, that makes me feel good. I really appreciate you, dude. So yeah, let's talk about some lists. We have 1 week, as the name and thumbnail attest to. We have 1 week before Leagues of Votann are going to be sort of widely available. They released this weekend officially, although people were getting them over the course of the last week. I think kind of appropriate for how the leagues were originally rolled out. They leaked a little bit early, where people are getting their boxes as early as Monday, which is pretty wild when you think about it. Yeah. So we've got a pretty good idea. We know what the rules are. Obviously, we've known them for a month, and people have started to grind games. But obviously, events weren't using them outside of maybe RTTs. But even the ones that I saw, I don't think I saw any Votann play. And it was actually kind of a slow weekend from what I saw, and that's kind of personal experience. We had some there. It was I don't know. It was kind of a low 40K weekend. There was Flying Monkey Con was the big event this weekend, but other than that, there weren't a lot of events going on. And I know the event that I live streamed did have a bunch of drops last minute. I had been talking to the TOs previously because there was another event being run locally. It wasn't a GT, it was an RTT. That was like maybe going to parasite players, but it doesn't look like that one even fired. So I think a lot of people just didn't want to play 40K this weekend. Maybe I think waiting for the Votann release, maybe assembling Votann, I don't know. But there wasn't a ton of 40K action going on, which was a little bit funky. But we have some cool lists to talk about, so let's go ahead and do that. No Retreat is the first one. Now, this is a little bit of a different event, and we actually have a note in the bottom of the website here where it's run by SN Battle Reports, and it has a very it's not particularly unique anymore, but they have a series of special rules. The most important one being that you cannot run mixed army list armies, which doesn't change the metagame hugely right now. Obviously, it did in 8th edition and sort of early 9th, but currently, because people are shrinking the number of detachments they have and super faction abilities break if you're bringing multiple detachments, it's not that big of an alteration to your list. But it can change things, and especially with Eldari being relatively popular right now, not being able to take multiple Eldari factions is a little bit of a big deal. That said, it's also invitation only, or I think it's application only. You have to submit a CV, so it's not open to the public. So the results of this one are a little different than they would normally be. But we did have Black Templars in the undefeated spot, which is pretty cool to talk about. This seems like a pretty standard battalion build. It's running a standard chaplain as well as High Marshal Helbrecht. The chaplain build running Wise or Raider. And that's it. No other upgrades on that guy. Interesting. Selfless Healer Apothecary, pretty standard. We do have a Centurion Assault Squad. The champion upgrade on the Sergeant. So he's +1 off the top of my head. Weapon skill, wound, and attacks, I believe, for a CP. Pretty good. He's also got the Crux Obsidian, which is -1 damage, I think, if that sounds right. We have a Judiciary with Tannhauser's Bones. I like that one. It reduces damage against the unit to 1. Then the downside of Judiciaries is they actually don't have any invulnerable save outside of melee, so having a little bit more defense on those guys helps a ton. I don't know if there is a synergy between Judiciaries and Devout Push, because I think they both trigger at the same time. So on your opponent's turn, you're not going to be able to sort of defensively fight last. But I think I'm going to double check that. But Judiciary is not a bad unit in particular. I do like I mean, the best synergy for Judiciaries obviously is Space Wolves, because you can give them a big intervention, a huge heroic intervention, which triggers before they would go to trigger the Tempora Mortis on somebody. Yeah, so it triggers at the same time as the Tempora Mortis, which doesn't work particularly well. But you know, if he's hiding inside the Centurion Assault Squad, that's like super tough to kill. That's pretty cool. There's also a Terminator Assault Squad with Icon of Heinemann, so the -1 EP on a Storm Shield guy. So he basically goes down to a 0+ armor save, which is pretty sweet. A Holy Orb on a Vanguard Veteran Squad. Love that one. Do D3 mortal wounds to somebody and make them fight last. Pretty easy. Fist of Malthus, the Relic. Power Fist on another Vanguard Veteran Squad. Big Eradicator Squad. All good. Seems pretty solid. Really like the Centurion Assault Squads. I like that. I think Centurions have finally settled into being like a unit that's in a pretty good, like an okay place. I think that there are Salamanders builds that really benefit from them, and I do think that like builds like this where you're trying to stank tanky buffs on them. You give, they have a resistance to mortal wounds. They have the Apothecary standing next to them who can heal them and can give them a 6-up damage ignore and can regenerate models. And you have another buff on top, this Crust Obsidian, to make them harder to kill. And I think that actually does matter a ton. So as much as people sort of poo-poo on Centurions right now for not being a particularly good unit, I think it's just because of the comparison to how good they were in the 8th edition Codex, where they were unreasonably broken. And I think Centurions now, especially the Centurion Assault Squads, Devastator Squads not so much, but the Centurion Assault Squads are definitely like an interesting take that you can take sometimes. Also, this guy's taking Meltaguns on his, which is that's certainly a mood. I think I like to see the Flamers because they're significantly cheaper. I think the Meltaguns cost you like 10 points per model. Or maybe 20. I think they might be 10 points per Meltagun, if I remember correctly, which is a ton to spend on this unit. But on the flip side, because they're not core keyword and don't get rerolls, the Flamers actually give them some pretty appreciable defensive fire. So if you're taking a center objective and you're just telling your opponent, I'm going to hold this, if they're charging into you, you can really represent super duper brutal Overwatch, which is pretty scary. Narcomantis Sense are great. Blood Angels have been enjoying them. Really? Blood Angels taking Centurions? I mean, I guess so. I've seen them in Space Wolves, and they seem fine there. I've seen them in... they're probably still fine in White Scars. They've always been good in Salamanders. I think Salamanders is really the home, because there are so many non-core keyworded buffs they can benefit from. And Salamanders specifically really benefit from like just having these huge tanky units. Like that's their whole thing. But anyway, cool to see Black Templars on top there. We do have a Drukhari list from No Retreat as well. Looks like it is pure Drukhari taking a real space raid. No, just taking a normal Drukhari list. Patrol detachment with a Court, an Archon with a Jin Blade, Drazar, not the Warlord. Who's the Warlord? A Homunculus? A Homunculus, I guess. It's hard to kill. That's alright, but Drazar is usually a pretty good Warlord. Full rerolls on that guy. Turns out pretty solid. It's funny, getting charged by a Warlorded Drazar versus getting charged by a non-Warlorded Drazar is like just night and day. It feels so different. Like one of them one-shots like most of a night. The other one does like 6 damage. Pretty wild. Nergomancy lost a sense over the weekend. It was a Salamanders list with 10 Centurions. Oh my god, dude. That's too many. That might be too many. That seems so... that's like tough though. Because you also consider that there are T5 no rerolls too, right? So like the 2+ save, the Armor of Contempt, like they're already kind of tanky. Probably a 6+ damage ignore. And then the T5 no rerolls just makes it hard enough. You're like, I need a 3 and I'm not getting my rerolls, like on a lot of stuff. Like, it's really awkward. It does just make your math a little bit silly. 2 units of Hellions. We watched Hellions over the course of the weekend, chat. Be absolutely brutal. Hellions are so good. And I don't know what we're playing Cult of Strife. Cult of the Cursed Blade. Just +1 strength on the charge, I think. Is that right? I believe that's right. I'm just gonna, you know what, chat? I'm not even gonna look it up. I think that's correct. Alongside a homoxite unit, big rack unit, little rack unit, and the special homunculus. So we're just using patrol detachments, Drakari patrols. Seems pretty good. We do have Ynnari, a bunch of Ynnari pictures here. Christopher Wright from CruteCon, going 6-0 with Ynnari. 3 Warlock Skyrunners, another Warlocks, 4 Warlock Skyrunners, a Farseer on foot, Farseer Skyrunner, the Incarn, you gotta have the Incarn, 2 units of Rangers, 2 Harlequin troops, 1 of 10, is this 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, I guess, and 1 of awkwardly 6, which seems a little bit overkill, but sure. 6 Dire Avengers, 2 X5 Howling Banshees. The Howling Banshees are so strong in Ynnari, it's kind of insane. Big Swooping Hawks unit, Shining Spear unit, Vipers, Warwalkers, Starweaver, Wave Serpent. Yeah, which seems great. So it is 6 troops, so you can fill out the Starweaver, I guess. All Shuriken pistols though, but that's what we're probably going to use to like sort of threaten a forward objective and then trade for it. But generally speaking, for those who don't know how the Ynnari playstyle typically works, it kind of centers around the Incarn, because the Incarn has the ability, anytime a unit dies, anywhere on the table, it doesn't matter whose unit it is, the Incarn can teleport to their position. So you take these MSU styles, where we do have this one sort of big crushing unit of troops, and obviously the Swooping Hawks are big, but they're never going to get into melee. The idea is that they're the one killing people, they're not the ones actually getting killed. But you can use the Incarn, you can use the teleportation to set up Incarn positions in your opponent's side of the table to push the Incarn aggressively, and then have units die on your own table half to bounce the Incarn back. And if your opponent isn't perfect with their target selection, you can just mess them up super hard by just so you killed a ranger unit on your table edge, suddenly the Incarn's on your table edge, and then the next turn it charges you. So you have to be really careful where you shoot your guns and what you do with them. And it hasn't been a playstyle that's really mattered too much over the course of the last couple of months. It was a little bit in I think tail end of 8th we saw a little bit of Ynnari, but we haven't really seen Ynnari play for a while. And so I think a lot of people have forgotten how to play against the Incarn, and it's really different. It really throws you for a loop, for sure. William Weisar, Wed Wave tournament was your very first tournament when 2-3 with Cops. Well, yeah, I think you came up and said hi to me, right? Thanks for coming and hanging out, dude. I hope you had a good time over the course of the event. Are lieutenants even worth taking with the whole Armor of Contempt and Votann? I think that they will. I mean, depending on how what's the word? How popular Votann ends up being, because there is certainly there are going to be some people who pick them up for sure. There are going to be some events that don't allow them for sure, and then there are going to be other people that maybe don't want to play them until they're fixed. That's a big. There's kind of like not even like vote with your dollars, but like vote with your time investment, right? Where they're just I don't even want to play this army until it's in a playable state, and I think that's totally appropriate. And I think playing broken armies can be fun sometimes, but only in limited quantities. So eventually winning without having to do anything it gets really boring. So if Votann ends up being a huge meta contender, I do think that the value of wound rerolls is going to drop. And I've been considering it myself. I have Tyranid Primes and Tzeentch Heralds in my list, in my Tyranid and Demons list. And I'm well, do I even need those if I'm not going to be able to reroll against Votann and I'm playing Votann 2/3 of my games in RTTs or whatever. So I think it's definitely a consideration. If it's something that's integral to your list, I wouldn't cut it. But if it will probably end up that if the choice is between a lieutenant or a different tech piece that you could take to shore up the matchup or make, especially to make the League of Votann matchup easier, then it will probably end up being won by the thing that doesn't give you rerolls. Because the reroll's real bad. Big bad. For sure. 3 losses that weekend were to Creations of Bile, Blood Angels, Black Legion. Yeah, that Armor of Contempt, man. It's brittle for orcs, for sure. Orcs are Orcs are not the big AP faction, 100%. Watchers in the Dark with the super chat. Thank you so much. I know that I did a video with Watchers in the Dark last week, and that is going up tomorrow, according to them. So hopefully that'll be good. Go ahead and check out their channel, and you can see what we talk about. Hey, there's the voice of text.
What's up, Trev?
We talk about old 40k editions for a really long time, which is pretty fun. Speaking of orcs, though, we do have Icehammer GT. I guess we could finish out GrootCon. We do have a couple Drukhari lists. It really, man, this past weekend was crazy because it was so much Eldari doing so well. Which, I mean, it's really beautiful, right? Because like Drukhari were a very early 9th edition codex, and while they were super broken at in early 9th, and I mean, I think it speaks to the fact that like the metagame is getting to a point where way earlier codexes that are still suffering under the weight of a ton of nerfs are still going to be able to play. I don't think that you can reverse those nerfs, to be fair. I just want to be clear with that. I think that like 2 damage flamethrower shots across the entirety of the army, probably still too good with no drawback. And I mean, their release points values were a little insane. So I'm not here saying that like we should put Drukhari back to their old ways, but I do think it's cool that we are seeing these sort of poo-pooed factions doing extremely well. This one does have Warlord Drazar, Succubus, Triple Rax, 2 units of Corsair Void Scars. That is a big reason for Drukhari being more popular is the access to Corsairs, because you can bring in a CP regen, which is not something they had access to previously. 2 units of Grotesques, 9 Incubi. Hot damn. Okay. 2 Venoms, a Raider for those Incubi to live in, and then Light Satyr Harlequins. Looks like 1 Shadow Seer. Yeah, the other thing too is that with Shadow Seers being in player troops, which means that this is really a mixed Eldari list. It's not real Drukhari, let's be fair. Shadow Seers being in these player troops, or in these traveling player troops, excuse me, mean that you have access to Witchfire or Warpcraft secondaries. And then we did see over the course of the weekend, we watched the mixed Eldari list we watched play had 2 Shadow Seers in it, which I think was a little package that was absolutely awesome. Those 2 little ladies running around, throwing a billion mortal wounds out and completing psychic interrogations was like, very nice. A couple of Void Weavers, 2 units of 5 players, 2 Star Weavers for them to live in. So, seems pretty good. Let's see. So moving on, we did want to talk about orcs a little bit because we did have a Icehammer GT 5-0 with orcs. Pretty cool. It's a Goff's list. This one is bringing Ghazghkull Thraka, so it's sort of the question of whether or not how many kill rigs we're bringing, basically. And it looks like we've cut 1 kill rig to bring Ghazghkull, generally speaking. 1 battle wagon, 1 kill rig, 1 truck. Most of the list is a Beast Boss and Squigosaur, sort of the standard build. Boss Zangstruck and a Weird Boy. 2 units of Beast Naga Boys. It is interesting that we only have the 1 kill rig, but the 2 Beast Naga Boys units. The Battle Wagon, I believe, can carry Ghazghkull. Although it has Ard Case. Ah, man, every Battle Wagon build is so confusing because some of them restrict embarkation on some of the upgrades and some of them don't. And I have to look it up every time, chat. And I really feel bad about that, and I really apologize. So it has a hard case, so it can't have Ghazghkull on it. So he's ground pounding like a badass for sure. He's like, I got a 4-wound phase cap. Let's frickin' go, dude. You can't even one-shot me. So we're probably filling that up with just Beast Naga Boys, I guess. I mean, the Battle Wagon's basically like a kill, like a discount kill rig, I guess. It doesn't do as much damage, but at least it's 50 points less. So I guess that's good. A big unit of Def Coptas, absolutely love those. So although it's not a great detachment for them, but I think Def Coptas are just fine. 2 units of 5 Squidhog Boys, which is pretty big. And we do have Makari in with Gaskell Thraka. So those models that are on the table, namely the Squidhog Boys, do get the benefit of Makari's damage ignore roll, which does make them relatively tough to kill. And then on top of that, we have the Kill Rig and the Battle Wagon running up to drop objective secured out on your opponent's army. And hope that your opponent has to spend too much time dealing with them so that Gaskell Thraka gets to you. It's a ton of infantry. The Gretchen, I don't know if benefit from objective secured. Now that there are so many mechanics in the game that remove objective secured from troops options. Yes, they do not have objective secured. But it is a ton of models, though, to be fair. And they can complete the action secondary, I think, get the good bits. And so you can end up doing that on a bunch of different objectives if you have Gretchen just swarming all over the table. We also have a bunch of Tyranid lists in that event. Not super exciting, whatever. DZTVGT was won by Tyranids. It's always sort of a crapshoot every time I click on a Tyranids list chat. I was just thinking about this earlier today. Whether or not it's going to be interesting or not. And it looks like we are, all right. We got High Fleet Hydra at a 5-0, so it is interesting. We're doing it, chat. We got there. So trying to outnumber people. You get +1 to hit if you outnumber them, and then you can pay a CP for +1 to wound, I believe, if you have more units in them than you do. Kronos and Talos getting back core would be cool. Yeah, I think honestly, like they just have to fix the Kronos regeneration ability, because the problem was that like Kronos regenerating Talos was really stupid. So the, you just have to say that it's like you can only regenerate infantry, basically, I think is the requirement. Like you can get grotesques back, that's fine, but like regenerating like an 8 wound, like -1 damage, like transhuman 5-up damage ignore, like big idiot, every time you kill a model was real dumb. And that was the reason that Thick City was so stupid. So like it would be cool if they got core back, but really you just got to fix that Kronos ability. That was really dumb when that was doing its thing. Yeah, early 40k was a lawless wasteland. Washes in the dark for sure. absolute clown show back there. Big clown fiesta. All right, so Hydra list, we have a Neurothreat, Winged Hive Tyrant, Reaper of Obliterax. Terrible. Get out of here with that garbage. 2 units of 3 Tyranid Warriors, 2 units of Zoanthropes, 2 Tyrannofex with Acid Sprays. What? A Swarmlord. So we are going to give Obsec to... It's actually really... The Obsec is really good on the Zoanthrope unit. So if you're spamming Zoanthropes, the Swarmlord's ability is actually pretty strong. Because the Zoanthropes are very good at getting to objectives. They're hard for your opponent to, like, dedicate attacks to. They always have to be close to your enemy anyway, and they're usually... Because they can string and still do most of their damage, they can almost always, because they can smite from the guy in the front of the unit, then string back 2 members and have the back one on an objective. They can sort of be on an objective that's, like, 7 inches away from them while still contributing to the fight. So having objective secured on that unit that's relatively tough to kill because they have a 4+ invulnerable save anyway is really good. And a lot of times they'll just get like tagged by something and your opponent's like, haha, you can't smite out or anything. And you're like, well, that's fine because I'm just sitting on this objective and obsecking it away from you. So I actually think that that's like kind of a neat combo, wombo combo there. But we do have Gene Stealers. I do love Gene Stealers with the Swarmlord as well because they can be synaptic linked to in the first command phase. And then you can use them to like disrupt your opponent's scoring really well. And then 2 Screamer Killers. All right, this is a weird list, chat. I'm not... It's 3x3 Tyranid Warriors, 2x5 Gene Stealers, 2 Tyrannofexes. And we're playing Ambush Predators, which I don't remember off the top of my head. Which is... everybody can heroically intervene. But we don't have any Venom Thropes, right? Wild. This list is wild. The Swarmlord can give Obsec to like the Screamer Killers and stuff. And I guess like if you're playing if the idea is that your game plan is to Obsec stuff and then use it to trade for your opponent's objective, making it so that your opponent has to kill those models every time is actually kind of a big deal. it's sort of like having a heroic intervention on a unit is sort of like having OBSEC on that unit, because your opponent has to engage that unit and kill it in order to take the objective from you. Otherwise, you get to intervene into them. So I guess that makes sense. Although you're not playing territorial instincts, which I don't know if Hydra gets. They might get feed. Hydra does not get territorial instincts, so it doesn't matter. Wild. Well, we got it, chat. We found an interesting Tyranid list. It's a real dice roll every time. That same event, we had a Dark Angels at X and 1. Probably we got some Ravenwing. Is this a Ravenwing list? It is, yeah. 2x5 Ravenwing Black Knights. Although this is a mixed list. It's not playing Ravenwing Detachment, right? Because it has Green Marines in it. Yeah, so it is a patrol. An Apothecary, Champion on Bike, Tech Marine, and Cursors. 2x5 Black Knights, a Dark Talon, 2 Landspeeder Vengeances. And then the first detachment is a patrol, Azrael and Ezekiel, with 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts and a Cursor squad. Now, I don't think that there's any... there's no synergy, besides Azrael being a Chapter Master, between the Redemptor Dreadnoughts and Azrael, unfortunately, because he only benefits Bikers and Infantry with his Invuln Aura. So this just seems like sort of Space Marine good stuff, I guess. It's like, Black Knights are fine. They're a fine unit by themselves. Now that their hammers are free, so they're actually okay in melee. The Landspeeder Vengeances are good, because they're just a lot of 2 damage shooting. And the same with the Dark Talon, too. So, I mean, it's just a bunch of good Space Marine units, I guess. This feels like it wants to be an Iron Hands list, honestly, chat. Like, it was an Iron Hands list that somebody accidentally painted green. I was like, oh, I guess we're playing Dark Angels now. We do have a 5-0 East Anglian Grand Tournament. This is a little bit of a small one. I think this is only 20 players. But the 5-0 with Death Guard. Everyone's saying Death Guard are bad, but man, they keep pulling out these podiums. So, you know, I think they're doing pretty well. Lord of Contagion and a Malignant Plague Caster. Are we spamming Plague Marines today? No, we're spamming Terminators, actually. 2x5 Plague Marines with all the buffs. A 10 of Poxwalkers. 2x10 Blight Lord Terminators. 3 Death Shroud Terminators. Foul Blight Spawn. Tallyman with Toll Keeper. Give that exploding 6s to all those Combi Bolters. Look at these Combi Bolters, chat. 2 Reaper Autocannons each unit. 2 Flails of Corruption. So 6 Combi Bolters apiece. And all of those get exploding 6s for 1 CP. Seems pretty good. 2 Mephitic Blight Haulers and a Fetid Bloat Drone adds a little bit of speed to the army. So, man, this is a really straightforward Plague Marine or Death Guard army. I guess that's fair because we're not really, Death Guard's they're not known for their subtlety. So we're just gonna march 23 Terminators up the table. Hope for the best. Seems pretty all right. Hey, Nergomat with the slap on the Slanesh bots. Thank you, Nergomat. Big downside of YouTube streaming is those annoying bots. Clumsy Orc GT with Imperial Knights. It's a Free Blade Lance, so I'm mostly going to skip a chat. I apologize. I'm not going to read every single ability that each of these individual models have. It is mostly Warglaves, mostly Armigers, excuse me. 1 Moirax, 6 Warglaves, 3 Armiger Halberins, and the Knight Paladin. I think that's basically been solidified as like the build, right? I think that's almost every time I see Imperial Knights, that ends up being the like formula that ends up coming out. So this is for Game Night GT. We have a unit of 3 Tyrant Guard. What is this High Fleet? I can't find it. Oh, it is Leviathan with Augmented Ferocity. Oh, this is a boring list. Well, we've flipped to the other side of the coin finally, chat. We've got an interesting one that was Hydra with a bunch of Tyrannofexes, and now we have a bunch of Tyranid Warriors. Exciting. This one has 1 Biovore, so that's pretty cool. 2 Winged Hive Tyrants. All right. Oh, it's a Foot Hive Tyrant with Maw Claws. I always see this, chat. This is... I think I've talked about this in so many videos, but this need to put Reaper of Obliterax on the Winged Hive Tyrant if you're taking a double Tyrant build is so interesting to me. Because it's like, In my opinion, it's so much last efficiency. Because the Maw Claws and Thyrax get better the more you can attack over the course of the game, and a Winged Hive Tyrant is just better doing that than a Foot Hive Tyrant is. So you could put Foot Hive Tyrant on the Reaper on the Weight Reaper of Obliterax on the Foot Hive Tyrant. He's only going to get to fight once or twice at any time each game anyway. You put the Maw Claws on the Winged Hive Tyrant, and he gets to fight a bunch of times, and by the late game, he's an absolute tank. But if you don't do that, then your Maw Claws are just not generating additional attacks at all. And you might as well not even have them. You just, instead of, it's like gives you +1 attack, and you've already paid the CP to reroll anyway. So it's like you have to bake in the CP to, what's the word, to Voracious Appetite when you really don't need it to. Nurgle lost to Tyranids over the weekend? All right. Fair enough. What kind of Tyranids was it, Nurgle? Were they interesting Tyranids, or were they boring Leviathan Tyranids as much as the Tyranid Warriors? I do think, to be fair, chat, we were talking a little bit about Leagues of Votann earlier, and building against Leagues of Votann, and I have a sneaking suspicion that multiple Tyrant builds may be pretty good against them. I don't know about good necessarily, but I think pretty effective. Either it is like a Foot Hive Tyrant with the Shard Gullet, so when they expose those big fortresses, you can at least clear their 0 damage effect. Or double Flyrant. This is actually probably pretty strong. One with Maw Claws and one with Reaper. The Maw Claws obviously not that great, but if you can hit the Pioneers early without the reroll wounds, it's like a little bit poopy. But if you hit the Pioneers early and you can yo-yo that dude, he gets better and better as the game goes on. And then if you really need to hit something for a bunch of mortals, you can plow the other one into it. And I think that Hive Tyrants are going to be strong in that matchup because they can't be shot. So if your only way to interact with the Hive Tyrant is with like Berserks, then things get a little bit awkward for you, in my opinion. And a Reaper of Obliterax Hive Tyrant probably just tanks a Dirt's Land Fortress if it gets in there, I imagine. It saves on 5s. Is that right? Yeah. 5s. Yes, 5s or 6s if you're playing Kraken. And if you plus D3 attacks him, he probably eats 5 wounds. So you take 5, you deal 5 mortal, so it's down to 11. You only have to fail 4 out of 5, 6 plus saves, and you just kill it in one shot. And then you run away. And that seems pretty good. The downside is no rerolls, so like you probably don't play Leviathan because you're not using Leviathan rerolls. You probably don't need the Transhuman, so you just play Kraken for the extra AP to get through Void Armor. But you know, it is what it is. Techno Heretic took 4th at the event we're looking at. Hey, very nice. I don't have your list up here, unfortunately. This is relatively small. It was good ones. Oh, okay. Gentleman nids with like just a bunch of idiot warriors running around. Was it a drop pod? I don't know if I can really take credit for like any particular Tyranid innovations. As sad as it is, I guess like double brain bugs, right? People weren't doing that so much beforehand. But that's not like that. It's not like innovative, really. Like, take more of this thing that does 6 mortal wounds every psychic phase. Like, okay, I guess I will. Double Tesseract vaults, dude? That's fucking sick. We were just talking about Tesseract vaults last weekend. Or last week, excuse me. And how absolutely cool they are. Oh, no, over the weekend. Yeah, it was over the weekend. We were talking about Tesseract vaults in the live stream. And how that unit's actually, like, pretty solid. So I kind of love it. There was talk about how busted Votann are, but looking at Tyranid rolls and like this is almost as good. I think that's absolutely the case, chat. We were having a Discord or a discussion in the Discord earlier today, and some people were like, "Well, according to playtesting, Leviathan Tyranids just lose to Votann," and you're like, and I will preface this by saying I haven't played against Votann yet because they're not really tournament legal, and quite yet. I'm sure I might try to get a game on Thursday with them because I have a competitive game scheduled over on the live stream every day on Wednesday, Friday. But my Thursday's open, so I might try to play with or against them. And it feels to me like Tyranids are like they can fight. Like, I don't think that it's probably not Tyranid advantaged, but it doesn't feel like they just die. It seems like they just play a really cagey game, which is always what Tyranids have done anyway. Yeah. But certainly, like, I think that Tyranids on release were as good, if not better, than Votann look, for sure. Like, pre-Encircle nerf Tyranids, absolutely, I think Tyranids were better. Could you imagine trying to play against Tyranids as Leagues of Votann before the Encircle got nerfed? Oh my god, dude. What would you do? Like, regardless of what happens, their most powerful thing can't be attacked every turn? Like, I don't... like, what do you... You're like, aha, you've blown up my land fortress with your Hive Tyrant. Now I will bail out my Berserks and trade with you. And you're like, no, I'm going to spend a CP and not get attacked by them. You're like, okay. But, like, I don't know. Tyranids were absolutely dominant during that period of time anyway, and we somehow survived, which is kind of how I feel about Leagues of Votann. I don't know. I made a video about it. Webboy Games Fall GT. We can talk about Daniel Wilmus' list. Watchers in the Dark 1v1 you? Dude, do you have time on Thursday? I usually stream at 2 p.m. US Eastern. If you're available then, I will play you. Let's frickin' go, dude. I'll build a new Votann metagame list, and we'll have a good old-fashioned knockdown, drag-out fight. Dyson Bolter took Jormungandr to a GT over the weekend, ended third. Got stung by a free blade lance. Hell, congratulations. Jormungandr's real classy. I do like Jormungandr right now. I guess, like, now that, as we look at Eldari here, now that Hail of Doom expert shots isn't a thing, there's less of, like, the glut of light cover ignoring that you used to have. So actually getting +1 to your save thanks to cover is, like, kind of a big deal. Although I think Votann have a lot of cover ignoring, if I remember correctly, because their little scanner guy lets them ignore cover, right? It's kind of tucking out my butt. So if they become a big thing, you might end up not really wanting that and wanting a Kraken instead. And to be fair, that's another benefit of Tyranids too, is like the game plan is really mutable. You can play a lot of different stuff in Tyranids because that codex is really deep. So, yeah. We watched this list play, chat. I'll run through it really quickly, but if you want to see this list like in action, the final round against Necrons. So the semifinals was Ynnari versus Mixed Eldari, and it was like really a showcase on how to play the Incarn. So if you want to like really see what Ynnari can do, watch that game. And if you want to see basically the bloodiest game of 40k I've ever watched in my entire life, watch the final round, which was this list versus Necrons. Because in the first battle round of the game, the first battle round, chat, the first player's first turn and then the second player's first turn, about 2,000 points of models died, which was fucking wild. Actually, maybe the first 3 turns of the game. I think through the Necron, through the first player's second turn, about 2,000 points of models died. Both players were down to about half of their armies. It was absolutely insane. So love those games. Please go check them out because they were actually super sick. All right, so yeah, this is a Ynnari list. It is Incarn, Farseer, Skyrunner. It's a little bit similar to the one that we saw previously. 2 units of Rangers, Cabalite Warriors, and Witches. We have Striking Scorpions, 2x5 Howling Banshees, 1 with Crunch Scream, 1 with Piercing Strike, so +1 damage on one of them, and then the D3 +1 mortal wounds on the charge. We do have a 10-man of Dire Avengers. The cool thing about these guys is they can shoot and perform actions without if you don't switch out their Exarch ability. And that allows them, and having the 10-man, gives you 11 wounds to play with. So you can deep strike them somewhere awkward and then just declare an action and like hope for the best. So if you're playing Scout the Enemy, you can like deep strike them in your opponent's deployment zone. And if they're like sort of out of the way, if they're like 18 inches away from all of their important stuff, sometimes it's difficult to clear the entirety of the unit because they're an invulnerable save. They're probably in cover. And you're lightning fasting them. And so getting through 11 wounds like that can be a little bit tough if you're not super fast. And so oftentimes they just like complete a Scout the Enemy on the turn that they web way in, which is kind of cool. Would demons be good against Leagues of Votann? I don't think so. But I'm willing to be proven wrong. The demons are really reliant on like big defensive tech, right? They've got like wound penalties, they've got hit penalties, they've got you know, phase caps and stuff like that. And Leagues of Votann basically just kill everything in their line of sight. So the fact that the greater demons are like the focus of the codex and they can't be obscured means that you're just basically trying to like deep strike stuff on people and hope for the best. And you're running into a faction that has like decent like pregame moves to screen well and then Auspex scan. And demons don't have like good guns to clear out the pioneers and stuff before they run in and ruin their day. So I think that demons are bad in that matchup. But I've never played it, and I might just be totally wrong. It might just be like you like cross your fingers, hope Bellicor wins through like lives to the first round, which he probably might, and then you get to deep strike like a Bloodthirster on their other land fortresses, and then like GG. But I have no idea if that's actually the case. Guard should be good against Leagues of Votann. Don't think they quite manage it. It probably depends on your terrain, right? If you play like Talarn, you can keep your tank commanders out of line of sight for a lot of the game. You're probably in a pretty good spot. But I definitely think like Guard, not really caring about wound rerolls because you don't have any. It's like kind of a mood. You're like, oh, I also get judgment tokens, except I like shoot 3 times more shots than you do. So let's fucking go, I guess. Oh, what's that? You're like your land fortress killed 10 guardsmen. Okay, whatever, bro. Who knows? Votann have a relic for no deep strike within 12. Okay, fair enough. I guess like that's probably a metagame call, right? I don't know if you take that often. That's also, is it an aura on just the model carrying it though, right? It's not usually that great. But who knows? Like if it's one model, you can just like deep strike somewhere else. But I think that you actually just die basically as a demon player. I don't know how demons survive that. They're like, check me out, I have good saves, and they're like, well, RIP sucks already, so it's whatever. Just take 40 of them, 40 saves, please. And you're like, oh, I died. All right, Dan. All right, Mr. Dan Salmons. We'll talk about your list in Flying Monkey Con GT. Although I hope you didn't play a friggin' Freeblade Lance. Oh, you didn't. Oh, you did. Damn it. All right, well, it is a Freeblade Lance. One Knight Errant. Everything else is 1 Moirax, 5 Armiger Warglaves, 3 Armiger Helverins. Okay, so it's basically, it's the same as we just talked about, but it's an Errant in place of the Paladin. Cool. Very nice. Here's the thing with the Freeblade Lance, chat. I'm not going to read 1,000 traditions and benefits and drawbacks for every single model. So we're gonna look at them really briefly. Dan, congratulations on your 6-0. That's great. I'm sure that you can go down, do a little breakdown of your list in the chat there, and then we can go from there. Relic goes on 10 Terminators and gives them a free teleport. You'll see it all the time. Are you going to see the Terminators for real, chat? They seem like I don't know. They seem fine. They seem like kind of a dud, though. It feels like I don't know. It feels like the Terminators are going to fall prey to the things that are good against Leagues of Votann, and that isn't really what you want. But who am I to say? We also have a Tyranids here. Ooh, Leviathan Tyranids. This one does have a Turbigon, a Winged Hive Tyrant, Neurothrope. 2 Zonethropes, love it. 2 Tyrannifexes. We're all in on the Tyrannifexes this weekend, chat. Whoa! With Rupture Cannons. Are we playing the classic Leviathan subfaction ability? We are. The Leviathan adaptive trait. So they get rerolls on their big gun. And a Spore Assist. So we give good movement blocking with the Spore Assist, or at least sort of area denial. I imagine that the event had special. I guess it doesn't really need special rules for the fortification anymore because you can remove terrain to place it now. I will say that the event that I streamed over the weekend, Dan Wilmislos had a webway gate in it, and they did have special terrain placement rules. They only counted the vertical elements of terrain for blocking fortification placement. So you could actually place your fortifications down without like getting rid of your big piece of cover. But this list isn't particularly predicated on hiding because you do have 2 Tyrannofexes, so it's going to be tough to... 2 Tyrannofexes and Tervagons, so it's going to be tough to hide those guys anyway. And then we have big units of Termagants too. The Tervagon build is heightened senses, so fights first. And Maw Claws of Thyrax. And then a Reaper of Obliterax. Yeah, Reaper of Obliterax, Hive Tyrant. Big unit of Termagants to hide the Tervagon, and a little unit of Termagants, probably because we had points extra. Unfortunately, the little unit of Termagants doesn't actually hide the Tervagon initially, because it's only 15. Yeah. Very nice. I think we're going to start to see more of the spine spore, or the spore mine spawning guys, for sure, chat. Between spore assists and biovores. Being able to block vehicle movement is like a really huge deal. The Terminators with the teleport relic force the opponent to screen. If they have a screen, the other stuff can shoot it. Yeah, you're not wrong, for sure. Should Nids be nerfed again? Probably. I mean, maybe a little bit. I think you could push up warrior points cost. I think would be the nerf I would give them. I think warriors are still too undercosted, unfortunately. But I do think that you know, it's probably okay. There's a couple things I think I would maybe do Tyranids. I'm like maybe bump the points cost of a Neurothrope and warriors. Those are like the ones that feel really kind of silly to me. Those would be the 2 things I would do to make like the smaller unit, like the more hordy list, a little bit better, because I think those lists are those are more easily countered anyway. Remove Synapse from warriors. You know GW would never do that, chat. like the warriors like were the OG Synapse creature. Like that was their reason to be back in the day. There's not a it would be a cold day in hell by the time Robin Kretis was able to convince like his superiors to remove Synapse from warriors. People say to remove Reaper of Obliterax. I mean, who cares, right? I don't know. I think I'm like wildly biased because I think Overrun is cool as hell, and I think Reaper of Obliterax isn't that good, given the fact that I have not played it in years. I basically haven't played it since the Codex came out. I've only played Maw Claws. I think it is much better against Leagues of Votann though. So if you want like a white knight to fight Leagues of Votann, don't take Reaper of Obliterax out because it is kind of important. You want to be able to like slam that Hecaton Land Fortress for 1 billion damage and blow it up. I think that Reaper of Obliterax, to be fair, I think you could remove the phase cap on it, the wound ignoring ignore on it, if only for the fact that it creates like a weird rules contention, right? Which is whether or not mortal wounds count as attacks, and I don't think that they do, but. It's like ruled randomly wherever. So like you can have Reaper of Obliterax can be wildly more or less powerful depending on where you play, which is really weird. I think you could just cut that clause out of the weapon entirely and it would still be fine. People take it for the mortal wounds. The face cap ignoring is just gravy. Make Leviathan full transhuman monster only. I could see that. Yeah, I don't hate that at all. The transhuman warriors is like, it feels a little abusive for sure. Or you make it like maybe you make it non-troops. Get it? I think probably makes sense.
Lemma checked with the GF Thursday, last day home before I leave for Michigan GT, then get back Monday and leave next Thursday again for the Chicago Open.
Watches in the dark. Your schedule sounds wild, man. So is that to say that you're hanging out with your girlfriend on Thursday and not playing Leagues of Votann against me on Tabletop Simulator? Hit me up on Discord, dude. We'll make it happen if it works out. I would love to play against Leagues of Votann and see the full chicanery in action for sure. Does Don't nerf Nids, buff everyone else that's underperforming, and then C. Yeah, I don't think you need to do that necessarily. I actually think, I mean, we're in a pretty good place. If there's one faction that I think needs buffs, it's like, I hesitate to say Space Marines, because on one hand, Space Marines are pretty solid, but it's only select sub-factions. I think you could, like, maybe if we data slated Nephilim, right, you could rework, like, individual Space Marine secondaries. Make the Imperial Fist secondary, like, complete in one turn. Give them, like, a super good secondary. And it scores you, like, 5 points. Or it scores you 1 point, and then 1 point, like, every turn you hold additionally. It's like a banners, basically. And let you do it in your home objective. Just give Imperial Fist the most broken fucking secondary. Like, 1 turn completed action. If you're OBSEC infantry, you complete the action in 1 turn, which everything is because you have Rights of War. It scores you 4 points immediately, and then 1 point in every subsequent command phase you hold that objective. And you can do it on any objective on the table. There we go. That's how we should start buffing up terrible sub-factions, is give them super busted secondaries. You have to finish Game of Thrones? Oh, dude, I haven't even... Oh, we're talking about actual Game of Thrones, not House of the Dragon? I haven't watched House of the Dragon at all, bro. For sure. I don't even know if it's good or not. My HBO account was borked. I couldn't get into it. I was like, this sucks. Whatever. Make GSC Aberrants a copy-paste of Votann Berserkers? Yeah, Aberrants need a looking at for sure. They're so bad. They should definitely have similar mechanics, though, for sure. But also make Berserkers, like, maybe 35 points a model. Cost them the same as Wolfen, because they're the same unit. They just copy-pasted the same unit and made it, like 10 points cheaper. Imperial Fist favorite players would be insufferable? No, their faction still sucks, chat. Like... Also, Valrax made like 7 videos about how he's quitting 40k and will never play again. So that dude does not care whether or not they have a good secondary objective in GT Nephilim. And Chapter Master Valrax, feel free to... you know where I'm at. Feel free to hit me up if you disagree. But, like, the faction is just designed so poorly. It has a super doctrine and a doctrine ability that work on 2 different kinds of weapons. Like, who does that? The Salamanders one works on the same weapon. It's so stupid. Oh my god. What a mess of a faction. I think Imperial Fist legitimately could be reverted to pre-nerf status and would actually not change. Like, you could put Imperial Fist back to, like, their OG super doctrine, which is just +1 damage against vehicles and Devastator, and then, like, give them the ability to live in Devastator the entire game. And, like, suddenly they'd have an identity, right? And hell, give it to against monsters, too. They have +1 damage against vehicles and monsters in Devastator Doctrine, and unlike every other faction, Imperial Fist can stay in Devastator Doctrine all game. And I don't think Imperial Fist win rates, like, change that much. Like, maybe they get super busted against, like... I don't know. Maybe they can be really good at killing Hecaton land fortresses. You know what eventually kills a Hecaton land fortress? Triple... not even Thunderfire cannons anymore, because all their indirect fire got nerfed into hell. Yeah, I don't even know what you put that on. It's not even good. Auto cannons, maybe. Who knows? Change Imperial Fist to be Hail of Doom Bolters auto-wounding on 4s with -4 AP. Yeah, every time you roll a 4+ to wound with a bolt gun, you deal a mortal wound to your opponent. That's what it should be. Regular bolt guns, chat. Only regular bolters. Not bolt weapon, bolter. So you have to take mass tactical marines. That'd actually be sick. Oh, I'm into that now, chat. That's how Imperial Fist should work. Only tactical marines all the time, but their tactical marines are really broken. Bolters and bolt pistols when fired in melee. So they're randomly really good if you engage them. They shoot like 10 times and they do like 4 mortal wounds to you. Yeah. I'd play that faction, chat. I played 60 tactical marines on a dare. I'd play that faction if they did mortal wounds. It'd be amazing. Do you miss bolt weaponry and assault cannons being good? Hell yeah, dude. Assault cannons are so poopy. What a sad time. So looking through the rest of Flying Monkey Con. This is a Necron list with a shard of the Nightbringer. That's exciting. Unit of Scorpic Destroyers, Locust Destroyers, Plasmacite, Technomancer, some Immortals. Another big Scorpic Destroyer unit, 2x3 Scarab Swarms. It's a little bit different. That is Obsec Dynasty, right? Yeah, it sure is. And only one Catan Shard, it looks like. Oh no, 2 Catan Shards. We've done it! The double Catan is back. 2 character Catan Shards even. We're not trying to chicanerize Sky of Falling Stars. I love that actually. Yeah, we have Sky of Falling Stars on the Deceiver. Now sometimes events make the mistake of letting the Deceiver switch his standard power into a second copy of Sky of Falling Stars if the first one already has it. So if Nightbringer was Gaze plus Sky of Falling Stars, then you switch Nightbringer's ability into a second Sky of Falling Stars. Definitely not how the rule works, but some places allow it, and it's really broken. Wouldn't Hammerhead or Massed Hammer Strike be good against Hecatons? Massed Hammerhead Strike. I don't know what a Massed Hammerhead Strike is, chat. The downside of Hammerheads is the Broker, the upgraded Broker blanks 1 attack every turn, every battle round. So if you have a single Hammerhead, if you're shooting at a vehicle, which you probably will, because they probably won't give you other stuff to shoot at, the Hammerhead actually just like fluffs. Also, if you fail to wound, you can't reroll it with targeting array because it's void armored. So you're like, oop. You probably still take like long strike, or maybe like 1 Hammerhead, but I think you have to be very careful what you pointed at, unfortunately. Three Hammerheads plus long strike. Yeah, I don't think it's that great. They're also really poopy against the Pioneers too. So I think you just get like sort of swarmed by Pioneers. I'm actually not really sure. I mean, speaking from a position of inexperience, Tau is the one or is one of the matchups where I'm actually not sure how they beat League of Votann. I know talking to some people, they were had the impression that like an infantry spammed Tau list is like the way to go, where you're just trying to get through Void Armor with Weight of Fire, and you don't really care about like your saves being ignored or your defensive tech being ignored by the fact that you just like have shitty defensive stats anyway. But I don't know if Tau infantry are that effective, and it doesn't feel to me like Votann infantry sweeping is particularly bad. But maybe there's a universe where like Breachers can just do enough damage of the first turn that they kill everyone. Getting through Pioneer seems so tough though, because they pregame move and fly. Seamus Storm Surge dies turn 1 versus Votann. That's okay. We can live in a universe without Storm Surges, and I think it's probably fine. Triptide? It's Triptide, the secret technology, chat? They did win a GT recently. Moving on down the line, James Kelling. What a boss. Ulthway. With 2 Seer Councils, 1 Skyrunner with a Ghost Helm of Alashazir, so trying to get those natural 9+ on psychic tests to automatically complete secondaries without being denied. Very good. One of the big benefits of Ulthway, for sure. We have Eldrad Ulthran, a Farseer. So currently a Warlock unit, a Skyrunner Warlock, Eldrad, and a Farseer. So 4 casters, 3 units of Rangers, Howling Banshees, also Behareth because he was busted. Shroud Runners, Shining Spears, Vipers, 2 D-Cannon, 5 total D-Cannon support weapon platforms. Fuck me. And a Wave Serpent. Yeah, so the triple Rangers there to unlock the reroll hits on the D-Cannon so that they can get through the -1 ballistic skill from shooting out of line of sight. And then you have at least on whichever big units are shooting, most importantly, you have a +1 to hit strat for a CP on Discipline of the Black Guardians. Watches in the Dark with the super chat again, dude. Thank you so much for all these super chats today. It makes me feel good and happy inside. You and Brenton Weiss super high on Triptide? All right. I'll have to pick your brain about Triptide, because I definitely bought a Riptide, and I was like, I'm probably never going to use this. And then I started watching Triptide win, and I was like, sick. That's exciting. Man, am I terrible at playing Crisis Battlesuits, by the way? I bet I could play Triptide, but Crisis Battlesuits, no good. I cannot play that unit. I'm very bad at Tau. As much as I love Tau, and they were one of the OG armies that I played, I am so bad at them.
High on Triptide.
There's our text to speech. Unfortunately, YouTube is delayed really hardcore, so I don't get the text to speech for a while. Tyler DeVries with Necrons. Obsec Dynasty, it's the Scorpic Destroyers. This one's spamming Canoptic Scarab Swarms. I'm going to be honest, chat. I think I might be biased because I play a lot of armies that are really good at killing Canoptic Scarab Swarms, but I'm never impressed by the Scarab Swarm spam. I think 3 Scarab Swarms is just annoying enough to deal with, and it's like really awkward, and they're only 45 points, so you can trade them for objectives. But 9 just feeds no prisoners so easily. But sometimes, I guess, this is double Locust Destroyers. So fuck. This has 14 Locust Destroyers in it? Bro. That's pretty sick right there. That's what that is. The Veil of Darkness. I do like Locust Destroyers. I don't think everyone's sleeping on Locust Destroyers. Maybe not so much once Leagues of Votann come out, because you can't Extermination Protocol against the Void Armor. But I do think it's pretty good. We do have a Chaos Demons in here. 5-1, a Flying Monkey. Michael Mann. The Demon Prince of Chaos with Mark of Tzeentch. Interesting. A Fate Skimmer. Second Fate Skimmer. So we're running double Fate Skimmer instead of the Lord of Change. 3 Instant Blue Horrors, 3 Exalted Flamers, 15 Flamers. I like this list so far. 3 Burning Chariots. All right, calm down. What is happening right now? Tzeentch does have a Warp Storm ability for +1 ballistic skill. And I think we're leaning super hard into there. We have Staffs of Change in both the Fate Skimmers. So this is a Chaos Demons gun line. This list is really cool, actually. So you can +1 ballistic skill. We do have an Infernal Flames in the second Fate Skimmer. Unfortunately, getting the number of Warp Storm points you really want to be able to get all your powers off reliably seems really tough. But then you get to fire like Blue Hordes hitting on 3s. The Demon Prince, I think, has a reroll 1s aura. So the Blue Hordes can reroll 1s. The Exalted Flamers hit on 2s at that point. The Flamers don't care, obviously. And then the Burning Chariots will hit on 2s. That's just and then most of it's rerolling 1s to win because of the 2 Fate Skimmers. And then there's 2 Screamers. And a little bit of a weird synergy is that the Fate Skimmers actually give the Screamers +1 to wound, I think. They choose a Screamer unit in the command phase, which is not an incredible synergy because the Screamers themselves aren't actually that good in melee. They hit on 4s for whatever reason, and their save in melee sucks, so they just die on the swing back. But a hit bonus on them, or a wound bonus on them, is pretty good. Yeah, that is a wild Chaos Demons list, and then more Necrons. So honestly, I was a little surprised at the level of events that we saw this weekend. It was a ton of smaller events. We saw a lot of these like sub 30-person GTs, and then obviously Flying Monkey Con was pretty big. I think that was like 250 players if I remember correctly, and that was mostly it. And then CruteCon obviously was relatively large, but this weekend not a ton of 40K going on. There's a lot of Age of Sigmar, but we don't talk about that here. This is a 40K channel, not Age of Sigmar channel. Soon to be a Breachstorm channel. So there you go. So that's actually everything. That is it for the week before Leagues of Votann. And I don't know if the relative lack of appearance from the 40K community is due to Leagues of Votann or is in spite of Leagues of Votann. Because I know there's like so much controversy about them that people might have just gotten burnt on the whole discussion, or just like, fuck it, I'm gonna give it 3 months, which is totally fair. I understand if that's your point of view. And honestly, I think that I sort of support that, right? I don't know if you know, the community is mature enough to come up with its own solution to problems right now. But I do think that if you really are not having fun with competitive gaming because of factions broken it, I think that not participating is probably like the way to go. How do people find out about upcoming GTs? Mostly on Best Coast Pairings, chat. You go to the Best Coast Pairings app, and then you can search for GTs in a designated area, or you can search for events in a designated area. So that is generally speaking how people will find them. Didn't Knights win versus Necrons at Flying Monkey Con? Yes. The finals were Knights versus Necrons. I think the general idiom is that Knights are advantaged in that matchup because they have a massive obstac, which the Necrons can't take advantage of as much as other factions. And they have really good profiles at killing Necron stuff. They've got like a lot of like 2-3 damage attacks that are going to kill Necrons pretty well. So I think that is that helps. Cover the Triptide list. Oh, did you send it to me? All right. Let me drop it in a paste bin here. All right, we'll talk about this Triptide list that Watchers in the Dark wants me to cover. Let's go. Let's do this. All right. Does that show up okay? We can probably shrink it a little bit. There we go. All right, so Tau Sept. So we have a nice Tau Sept reroll. Cold Star Commander Battlesuit. Triple quad burst cannon, is that right? Yeah, 1 high output, 1 DeWalt 02, and then 1 regular burst cannon. Right, because one of them is... Oh, no, it's triple burst cannon, 1 gets replaced. Yeah, so double standard burst cannon, DeWalt 02, high output. Love it. Solid image projection, so super tough to kill. Love it. By the way, if you, I played as much as expensive as it is. The one standout unit from when I was playing Tau, I was never very good with the battle suits, but I played a Crisis Commander with 4 plasma rifles, and which costs an arm and a leg to kit with 4 of the same weapon. But holy fuck, did that guy slap every game. The precision Cold Star would like go do something and like punch someone and I don't know, maybe run away, and sometimes he'd die. But that little Crisis Commander would sit in the back of the table and just remove a unit from my opponent's army every turn. It was fucking awesome. Crude Carnivores. When you do Crude Hounds, you gotta take the Crude Hounds because they're so good. Pathfinder Team. 3 Rail Rifles. Okay. Getting spicy already. Rail Rifles, dude. 1 Ion Accelerator Riptide. Sunshark Bomber. 2nd Patrol Attachment with Shady Lady. Long Strike. Crude Carnivores, Crude Hounds, another Pathfinder team with Rail Rifles. Is that because we just want to do Mortal Wounds to Votann, chat? Is that what we're doing? All the commanders are strong in your experience? Well, maybe. I think like unupgraded commanders with random stuff isn't that good, but I mean, yeah, commanders are probably just the best unit in that whole codex. Most likely. Riptide, 2 Riptide Battlesuits Ion Accelerators. 1 with... What am I missing here? Why does 1 have extra things and 1 doesn't? Oh, this one has a shielded missile drone. I get it. That's where that came from. And then a 2nd Sunshark Bomber. So it's double Sunshark Bombers, 2 Sunshark Bombers, triple Riptide, Long Strike, and then basically just 2 Pathfinder teams. Shadow Sun, the Precision Commander, and then like whatever else. Yeah, that's like so front-loaded. I actually kind of love that list for sure. You're just packing damage as much as you can. All right, I think that's all right. That seems pretty sick. And then the Riptides just like peek out of obscuring terrain and shoot, and then run away every turn. The Pathfinders are just chilling, right? Because they can only move, shoot, move if they shoot marker lights. Is that am I remembering that correctly? If they do their, whatever it is, sweeping advance, or whatever the stratagem is called. Recon sweep. Fuck Fucking love that name. Yeah, you get +1 to hit marker lights and then you move. Right. But that's at the start of the shooting phase, right? So you can't do it and shoot your gun. Yeah. So do you need the rail rifles on? The rail rifles are just like kind of okay. How much does the rail rifle cost? Is it only like 5 points? You definitely don't need 20 marker lights on people, right, chat? Like, that's unnecessary. I guess they're 5 points, yeah. So for 15 a unit, you get like a sick gun too. And you can make use of your Tau reroll with that because you don't necessarily do that. All right, okay, I'll buy it. I want another commander in this list though, chat. I want to put Shady Lady and a Supreme Command, and I want to get another commander in this detachment. How do we do that? I want to play only commanders, please. Oops, all commanders. Oh, they do aerospace? All right, I'll buy it. What could we cut for more commanders? I wish you could take 5s of Pathfinders. It'd be so good. I don't know. Probably nothing. Yeah, this one seems really solid. I'm into it, chat. Might give that a go. I do have some Pathfinders. I only have 1 unit, though. The downside is having to like buy Sunshark Bombers because that model's like pretty poopy, honestly. All right, chat. Well, I think that was a bit of a short one today. Only about an hour, but not a lot of events going on. Again, I didn't have time this week to get anything else done because we were working on Breachstorm stuff. I did a plug at the beginning of the video that people tried to skip, but I'll do a plug at the end here too because that's that's just where we're at. This game that I have worked on in the past is getting like a bit of a revamp. It has been moved to being actively developed once again after its release, and it's super sick. So you should go check it out. It's breachstorm.com. It's a real it's like a small scale like skirmish tactics game, and it's really awesome. So I hope you go check it out. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap things up there after so people can not skip that part of the video as much. Watches in the dark. Thanks for the super chats, man. We'll be in touch, I'm sure. And otherwise, thanks to yeah, everybody's trying to fast forward now. Is it similar to Infinity? It is in that like it's a similar scale, you know. Infinity has more of a Infinity requires more terrain and is like generally more complicated, I think. Infinity is almost like more of a role-playing game, I think, than Breachstorm is. Breachstorm is very much more of a board game. But in that it's like it's sort of flavored the same way. You have like a team of sort of like espionage experts that are trying to do kind of flavorful objectives, and it's in a sci-fi setting. It is similar that way, but they play very differently. So I was trying to fast forward to the Breachstorm stuff. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. All right, that's gonna be it for me today, chat. You can hang out with me on Twitch tomorrow, probably around this time tomorrow. I'm gonna be live on Twitch, actually a little bit later. Kind of a late week again because I keep joining events that are North America time, so I have to play in the evening, which sucks. But that'll be good. So we'll be playing games for the rest of the week on Twitch. I have some videos ready to come out, but again, I'm super busy with other stuff, so it might not happen. But other than that, keep it classy, folks. Have happy wargaming, and I will see you around later.